I always thought gaslighting happened to other people. You know, the ones who didn't see the signs or weren't smart enough to catch on. I never imagined I'd be sitting here, hands trembling as I write this, wondering if I'm actually losing my mind or if my husband is trying to convince me that I am. My name is Vanessa, and 6 months ago I had what most would call a perfect life. Best-selling author, successful business owner, and married to Stephen, the kind of man who remembered anniversaries and brought me coffee in bed. Now I'm hiding in my home office, documenting everything before they can twist it away from me. It started with small things, keys that weren't where I left them, appointments I supposedly made but had no memory of, notes I'd written that I never wrote. Honey, Stephen called from downstairs this morning. Did you move my laptop again? I hadn't touched it. No, it should be on your desk. Well, it's not. His footsteps grew closer, just like my wallet wasn't in my jacket yesterday, or how the garage door was left open last week. The accusation in his voice made my stomach twist. I didn't touch your laptop, Stephen. He appeared in the doorway, perfect hair and concerned eyes. Too concerned. Maybe you did and just forgot? It's happening more lately, these little lapses. I didn't forget anything, I said firmly, but my voice wavered because he was right. Things had been happening, but not the way he described them. The doorbell rang before he could respond. My mother-in-law, Josephine, stood there with her signature Chanel perfume and practiced smile. 3 visits this week, unannounced, always. Vanessa, darling, she air-kissed my cheek. I brought those herbal supplements we discussed for your anxiety. We hadn't discussed anything. I don't have anxiety, Josephine. Oh? She exchanged a look with Stephen. But you told me just yesterday how overwhelmed you've been feeling. Don't you remember our chat? My head spun. We hadn't spoken yesterday, I was sure of it. I'd been on deadline, writing in my office all day, hadn't I? I need to check something, I mumbled, retreating to my office. My hands shook as I opened my journal, the one I'd started keeping when things first felt off. Yesterday's entry was clear. Wrote chapter 15. Didn't leave the house. No visitors. I heard their whispers downstairs. Getting worse, Josephine's voice carried. We need to do something before. I know, Mom. Trust me, I'm handling it. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Vera. Hey, V, still on for lunch tomorrow? You seemed pretty rattled when you called earlier. I hadn't called her. I checked my call log. There it was, a 23-minute conversation at 2 p.m. But I'd been writing then. I know I had been, unless. The floor creaked behind me. I quickly closed the journal. Everything okay up here? Stephen's voice was honey sweet. Mom's worried about you. I'm worried too. I'm fine, I said, but my voice sounded small. Just deadline stress? He wrapped his arms around me, and I forced myself not to stiffen. You know you can tell me anything, right? If things are getting overwhelming? That's when I heard it. His phone in his pocket vibrating with a text. He pulled away to check it, angling the screen away from me, but I caught a glimpse of the message preview. All set for next week, Dr. Marcus says. Stephen quickly pocketed the phone. Work stuff, he said smoothly. Hey, why don't you lie down for a bit? You look tired. I nodded, playing along, but as soon as he left, I pulled out my own phone and opened the voice memo app. With trembling fingers, I pressed record and whispered, Day 1 of documentation. Something's wrong. They're planning something. Stephen and Josephine, they're trying to make me think I'm losing my mind. But I'm not. I know I'm not. I hid the phone just as Stephen's footsteps returned. He stood in the doorway, phone to his ear, thinking I couldn't hear him. Yes, everything's in place, he murmured. Don't worry, it's almost time. My blood ran cold, because in that moment I realized 3 things. My husband was plotting against me. My mother-in-law was helping him, and if I wanted to survive whatever they had planned, I needed to start playing their game, but better than they ever could. The question was, how do you outsmart people who are trying to convince the world you're crazy without actually losing your mind in the process? I was about to find out. I really think you should talk to someone professional, Stephen said over breakfast, sliding a business card across the table. Dr. Marcus is highly recommended. I stared at the card, my coffee growing cold. Recommended by whom? Mom knows him through her charity work. He specializes in cases like yours, cases like mine. The words hung in the air like poison. I don't need a psychiatrist, I said, but my voice cracked. I'd barely slept, jumping at every creak in our too big house. Sweetheart. Stephen reached for my hand. I let him take it, fighting the urge to pull away. You left the stove on yesterday. What if there had been a fire? I hadn't cooked yesterday. I'd ordered takeout. The containers were still in the trash. But when I checked the kitchen after he mentioned it, there was a pot of burned soup on the stove. Someone had put it there. Someone wanted me to think I'd forgotten. Fine, I said. I'll see him next week. Stephen's smile didn't reach his eyes. Actually, he had a cancellation. He can see you today at 2. Of course he could. While Stephen was in the shower, I slipped into his home office. My hands trembled as I rifled through his desk drawers. Bottom right, locked. I knew where he kept the key behind the family photo on his desk. Inside, I found a manila folder labeled guardianship application. My heart stopped. I snapped photos with my phone, hands shaking so badly I had to take them 3 times. Legal documents, medical forms, all with my name on them, all waiting for signatures. They were trying to have me committed, or worse, declared legally incompetent. I heard the shower stop and quickly replaced everything, my mind racing. I needed help. I needed proof. Going to run some errands before the appointment, I called out, grabbing my keys before Stephen could offer to drive me. 20 minutes later, I sat in Vera's law office, dumping everything on her desk. The photos, the recordings, the journal entries. Jesus Christ, she whispered, scrolling through my phone. They're setting you up. Am I paranoid? Am I actually losing it? No. Vera's voice was steel. You're being systematically gaslit. And look at this. She pulled up banking records on her computer. Stephen gave me access last year for your estate planning, remember? There's a new account in your name, opened 3 months ago. My stomach lurched. I never opened a new account. No, but someone with power of attorney did. She turned the screen. Look at the signature on the documents. It was mine, perfect in every way, except I'd never signed it. He's been practicing, I whispered, remembering all the times I'd caught him studying our wedding certificate, old contracts, my book autographs. There's more, Vera said. Large transfers to offshore accounts, money moving through shell companies. He's either hiding assets or setting up a paper trail, I finished, making it look like I'm unstable with finances, too. The office door opened. Vera's assistant poked her head in. Mrs. Townsend is here to see you. Josephine. My heart raced. Back door, Vera mouthed, pointing. I slipped out just as I heard Josephine's voice. Vera, darling, I need to discuss Vanessa's power of attorney. I made it to Dr. Marcus's office with minutes to spare. The waiting room was empty except for a young receptionist who barely looked up from her phone. Dr. Marcus was exactly what I expected. Distinguished, grandfatherly, concerned. Every question felt like a trap. And these memory lapses, he said, when did they start? I don't have memory lapses, I said carefully. People are telling me I do. He wrote something down. Your husband mentioned aggressive episodes? Excuse me? The incident with the kitchen knife last week? My blood ran cold. There was no incident. But I could see where this was going. Every denial would be seen as paranoia. Every defense would be labeled aggression. I need to use the restroom, I managed. In the hallway, I pressed record on my phone and called Stephen. How's it going? His voice was too eager. Fine. Dr. Marcus seems nice. I paused. Honey, what knife incident was this last week? What? Oh, you don't. He stumbled. You really don't remember threatening me with the knife? Got him. The recording would show he couldn't even keep his lies straight. Back home that night, I lay beside my husband in bed, listening to him breathe. The man I'd loved for 6 years was plotting to destroy me, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He thought I was weak. I rolled over, plans forming in my mind. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they had no idea what I was capable of when cornered. Let them think they're winning, I thought. The best trap is the one you don't see coming. I think I'm losing my grip. I sobbed into my hands, watching Stephen and Josephine exchange glances through my fingers. Maybe you're right. Maybe I need help. 3 weeks of playing the perfect victim had led to this moment. Every forgotten appointment, every misplaced item, every confused conversation. I'd accepted them all with increasing desperation. Oh, darling, Josephine cooed, patting my hand. We only want what's best for you. I let my hands shake as I reached for my tea. I found my journal in the freezer yesterday. I don't even remember putting it there. Actually, I'd placed it there myself, knowing Josephine would drop by for her daily check. Right on cue, she pulled out her phone, probably texting Stephen's sister Chelsea about my latest episode. The doctors will know what to do, Stephen assured me, his hand on my shoulder, the same hand that had forged my signature on countless documents. After they left, I pulled out my burner phone, the one hidden in a hollowed-out self-help book Josephine had given me. Vera answered on the first ring. They bought it, I said. Hook, line, and sinker. The actor I found is perfect, Vera replied. Royal's been studying psychiatric protocols for weeks. He'll be convincing. What about his background check? Clean. And he's desperate enough for money to keep quiet. But Vanessa, she hesitated. I found something about Stephen's first wife. My heart stopped. What about her? Remember how Stephen said she had a nervous breakdown and was institutionalized after filing for divorce? Yes. I pulled some strings, got access to sealed records. Josephine filed for emergency guardianship over her, claimed she was unstable. Sound familiar? I sank into my chair. They've done this before. The wife disappeared after being committed. No one's heard from her in 10 years. Before I could respond, I heard a key in the front door. Got to go, I whispered, ending the call. Chelsea walked in, her face drawn. Unlike her mother and brother, guilt seemed to eat at her. Vanessa? She hovered in the doorway. Can we talk? I stayed in character, fragile, confused. Of course. Is everything okay? She sat, twisting her rings. I heard Mom talking to the attorney yesterday. She offered him extra money if things got complicated. Complicated how? If you fought back, if you tried to prove you were... She swallowed. She wants you gone, Vanessa, like Stephen's first wife. I let tears fill my eyes. I'm scared, Chelsea. Her face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I should have warned you sooner. After she left, I called Royal. You remember everything we practiced? Yes, he said. And I found 2 other actors who will play convincing orderlies. We're ready. Good. Because in Stephen's hidden phone, the one he thought I didn't know about, I'd seen text messages about doctors coming next Tuesday. I spent the next few days setting the stage. Hidden cameras in every room, microphones under furniture, a fake prescription bottle filled with sugar pills that I'd forget to take. Monday night, Stephen came home late. I pretended to be asleep as he made a call in the bathroom. "Everything's set," he whispered. "The doctors will be there at 10. Just make sure she's home." "Yes, Mom, I know." "No, she suspects nothing. She's completely out of it now." I rolled over, smiling in the dark. "Oh, Stephen, if only you knew." The next morning I dressed carefully. Nothing that could be twisted into signs of instability. No makeup to smear, no jewelry to turn into weapons. I waited. At 9:55, Royal texted, "In position." At 9:57, Vera confirmed, "Police standing by." At 9:59, I heard cars pulling up. Showtime. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Stephen, Josephine, and two men in white coats. "Mrs. Townsend," one said smoothly. "I'm Dr. Williams. We're here to help." I backed away, playing my part. "Stephen, what's happening?" "It's okay, honey." Stephen stepped forward, all concern. "These doctors are going to take you somewhere safe, somewhere you can get better." "No," I whimpered. "Please, no." "It's for your own good," Josephine said firmly. "You're not well." The doctors moved toward me. I let them get close, let them think they had me cornered. Then Stephen's burner phone rang. He answered it, frowning. "Hello?" A voice came through clearly. "Hey, Doc, we're outside the house now. Ready when you are." Stephen's face went white. He stared at the doctors already in his living room. "Who?" he whispered. "Are you people?" I straightened up, dropping the terrified act. "That's exactly what I was going to ask all of you." The real game was about to begin. The look on Stephen's face was worth every sleepless night I'd endured. He kept glancing between his phone and the doctor's in our living room, his perfect mask cracking. "There must be some mistake," Josephine said, her voice sharp. "Dr. Williams, perhaps you could show us your credentials." Royal smiled, reaching for his pocket. "Of course. Right after you explain why you hired actors to pose as medical professionals and forcibly remove your daughter-in-law from her home." The color drained from Josephine's face. "I don't know what you're talking about," Stephen said, but his voice shook. "These are legitimate doctors from—" "From where?" I interrupted. "The same facility where you sent your first wife?" The silence was deafening. "Security cameras," I said softly, pointing to the corners of the room. "Microphones, too. Everything you've said, everything you've done, it's all recorded." "You're confused," Josephine snapped. "This is exactly why we need to—" The doorbell rang again. The real doctors they'd hired, right on schedule. "Come in," I called out. Two men in white coats entered, then stopped short at the scene before them. "Dr. Marcus sent us too?" "Perfect timing," I said. "Would you mind explaining to everyone why you're here?" The first doctor cleared his throat. "We have commitment papers for Vanessa Townsend, signed by her husband and mother-in-law, citing severe mental instability and financial mismanagement." "Interesting." I turned to Royal and his team. "And you gentlemen are actually—" "Actors," Royal confirmed. "Hired by Mrs. Townsend here to document this attempted forced commitment." Stephen lunged for the door, but Royal's orderlies were faster. They blocked his exit. "Vanessa," Stephen pleaded, "you're not thinking clearly. We're trying to help you." "By forging my signature? By gaslighting me for months? By stealing my money?" I pulled out my phone. "Should we call Detective Fleming and discuss the offshore accounts?" "You bitch," Josephine hissed. "It's you, ungrateful." The front door opened again. Chelsea walked in, pale but determined. "I have something you all need to hear," she said, pulling out her phone. She pressed play. "The money's almost moved." Stephen's voice came through clearly. "Once she's committed, we'll have full control. Just like last time, Mom." "Good," Josephine's recorded voice replied. "That little gold digger won't know what hit her. Dr. Marcus is already paid off. Make sure you get rid of her phone before—" Chelsea, stop the recording. I've been documenting everything, every conversation, every plan, every lie. Chelsea, Josephine whispered, how could you? How could I? Chelsea's voice cracked. How could you do this again? What happened to Sarah wasn't enough. Sarah, Stephen's first wife, the one who disappeared. Nobody was supposed to get hurt, Stephen said quickly. Sarah agreed to leave. We paid her off. Liar, Chelsea spat. I found her, Stephen, in a facility in Arizona, still drugged, still trapped, still legally incompetent because of what you and Mom did. My hands shook as I pressed a button on my phone. Did you get all that, Detective Fleming? Every word, a voice replied through the speaker. Units are moving in now. Stephen's face contorted. He grabbed for me, but Royal and his team were there instantly, restraining him as police sirens filled the air. You ruined everything, Stephen snarled. We had a perfect life. Perfect for who? I asked quietly. The woman you were slowly driving insane, or the man stealing her money while pretending to love her? The front door burst open. Detective Fleming led a team of officers in, reading rights as they handcuffed Stephen and Josephine. The real doctors are under arrest too, Fleming told me. They'll be charged as conspirators. I watched as they led everyone out. Chelsea stood beside me, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have stopped them sooner. You did the right thing in the end, I said. That's what matters. After the police left, I sat in my quiet living room with Royal and his team as they removed their hidden cameras. You were perfect, I told them. Thank you. No, thank you, Royal said. Best acting job of my career, and it actually helped someone. Later that night, Vera came over with wine and takeout. You did it, she said, hugging me. But there's something else you should know. Those offshore transfers, they weren't just about hiding your money. She pulled out her laptop, showing me bank records. Stephen was sending regular payments to someone else, someone with expensive taste and a lot to lose if this ever got out. Who? Vera turned the screen. My heart stopped at the name. Well, I said, pouring more wine, isn't that interesting? The game wasn't over yet, and not by a long shot. Are you absolutely sure about this? Detective Fleming asked, reviewing the evidence spread across my dining room table. These allegations against the senator's wife are serious. The money trail doesn't lie, Vera said, pointing to the bank statements. Monthly payments of $50,000 to Amanda Pierce, wife of Senator Pierce, going back 3 years. I sipped my coffee, watching Fleming's face. 2 days had passed since Stephen and Josephine's arrest, and the revelations kept coming. That explains why they were so desperate to get control of your money, Fleming mused. Blackmail payments aren't cheap. My phone buzzed. A text from Chelsea. Mom's asking to see you, says she'll tell you everything. Time to go fishing, I said, standing up. Detective care to join me for a prison visit? The women's holding facility was gray and cold. Josephine sat behind the glass partition, her designer outfit replaced by an orange jumpsuit. Without her makeup and carefully styled hair, she looked old, broken. I'll tell you everything, she said immediately. About Stephen, about Sarah, about Amanda, all of it. But I want a deal. That's not up to me, I replied, glancing at Fleming beside me. But I'm listening. Stephen was sleeping with Amanda before he met you, Josephine said. She threatened to go public unless he kept paying. We needed your money to keep her quiet. And Sarah, I pressed, Stephen's first wife? Josephine's face twisted. She found out too, threatened to expose everything. Stephen panicked. The commitment wasn't supposed to be permanent, but once she was in the system, you left her there, I finished, for 10 years. She was going to ruin everything, Josephine hissed, just like you're doing now. My phone buzzed again, a text from Royal, in position at the senator's house. Perfect. One last question, I said. Does Amanda know about the recordings? Josephine's face went white. What recordings? I pulled out my phone, played the video, Stephen and Amanda in our bed discussing their plan. Didn't anyone ever teach you? I asked softly. Never trust a writer not to have cameras in their own house. You can't release that, Josephine whispered. The senator already knows, Fleming cut in. We interviewed him this morning. He's cooperating fully to avoid a scandal. I stood up. Goodbye, Josephine. Enjoy prison. Outside, Royal was waiting in his car. Mission accomplished, he said, handing me a USB drive. The senator's wife confessed everything to my reporter friend. It's all on tape. You're getting good at this undercover work, I smiled. Better than community theater, he shrugged, though less musical numbers. Back home, I found Chelsea waiting on my porch. They're charging Mom with conspiracy, she said. And they found Sarah. She's being released from the facility next week. Are you okay? She laughed bitterly. My brother's a monster. My mother's going to prison, and I helped put them there. But yeah, I'm okay. It needed to happen. My phone rang. Vera. Turn on the news, she said urgently. Now! I rushed inside, flipped on the TV. Senator Pierce was holding a press conference. In light of recent revelations, he was saying, I am announcing my resignation. My wife's involvement in criminal activities, including blackmail and conspiracy, has made it impossible for me to continue serving. Holy shit, Chelsea whispered. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. The doorbell rang. Detective Fleming stood there with a team of officers. Mrs. Pierce just confessed everything, he said. We're executing search warrants now, but there's something you should see. He handed me a file. Inside were photos, dozens of them, women in different cities, different years, all with the same story, all targeted by Stephen and Josephine. This wasn't just about money, Fleming said quietly. This was a pattern. They've been doing this for years. I thought about Sarah, locked away for a decade, about Amanda, using blackmail to feed her luxury lifestyle, about Stephen, who could smile and say, I love you, while plotting to destroy me. What happens now? Chelsea asked. Now? I looked at the photos of all those women. Now, we make sure this never happens to anyone else. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from an unknown number. You think you've won? Wait until they hear your confession. Attached was an audio file, my voice clearly distressed, admitting to instability, except I'd never said those words. AI voice synthesis, Vera said, examining the file. They had a backup plan. I smiled, thinking of all my recordings, all my evidence, all my witnesses. Let them try, I said. The truth is already out there. The game was in its final phase, and this time I had an army behind me. The courtroom fell silent as Stephen was led in, his designer suit replaced by prison orange. He wouldn't look at me, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. The man I'd loved, who'd plotted to destroy me, was about to face justice. All rise, the bailiff called. I squeezed Vera's hand as the judge entered. Behind us sat Chelsea, Royal, and a woman I'd only met yesterday. Sarah, Stephen's first wife, finally free and ready to testify. Your Honor, the prosecutor began, the state will prove that the defendant engaged in a systematic pattern of fraud, abuse, and conspiracy spanning over a decade. Stephen's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Townsend's mental state. Objection, Vera called from beside me. As my attorney, she'd been waiting for this. The defense is attempting to introduce fabricated evidence We have proof of AI voice manipulation. The judge peered over his glasses. Approached the bench. I watched as they huddled together, Vera pulling out documents. When they returned, Stephen's lawyer looked deflated. Additionally, the prosecutor continued, we call Sarah Mitchell to the stand. Sarah walked forward, her hands shaking but her head high. Stephen finally looked up, his face going pale. Ms. Mitchell, the prosecutor said, please tell the court about your marriage to the defendant. We were married for 2 years, Sarah began. Everything was perfect until I discovered the affairs, the missing money. When I threatened divorce, Stephen and Josephine. She took a deep breath. They had me committed, said I was delusional, dangerous. The doctors were paid off. I spent 10 years heavily medicated, unable to fight back. And during this time, what happened to your assets? Stephen took everything. My savings, my inheritance, my business. Over $6 million. The jury stirred. Stephen shifted in his seat. Your Honor, his lawyer interrupted, my client maintains that Ms. Mitchell was genuinely unstable. Then explain this, the prosecutor said, playing an audio recording. Stephen's voice filled the courtroom. Just like Sarah, once Vanessa's committed, everything transfers to us. The doctors are already paid. It's foolproof. Josephine's voice followed. As long as you remembered to forge the signatures correctly this time. The color drained from Stephen's face. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. The state calls Amanda Pierce, the prosecutor announced. Stephen jumped to his feet. Wait, I want to change my plea. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Order! Mr. Townsend, are you saying you wish to plead guilty? Yes, Stephen said, defeated, to all charges. His lawyer looked ready to faint. And, Stephen added, I'll testify against my mother and Amanda Pierce. Josephine, watching from the defendant's table, screamed, You worthless coward! After everything I did for you! Remove Mrs. Townsend, the judge ordered. As guards led Josephine out, she turned to me. This isn't over, Vanessa. You'll regret. The doors closed behind her. In light of the defendant's change of plea, the judge said, we'll proceed to sentencing. Stephen's lawyer requested a brief recess to discuss terms. In the hallway, Vera grabbed my arm. They're offering 20 years, she said, plus full restitution to you and Sarah. Take it, Sarah said immediately. I just want this over. I nodded. Agreed. Back in the courtroom, Stephen stood for sentencing. The judge's voice was steel. 20 years for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted false imprisonment. Additional charges may be filed as more victims come forward. You'll pay restitution of all stolen funds plus damages. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. As they led him away, Stephen turned to me. Vanessa, I cut him off. You don't get to speak to me anymore. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Sarah gripped my hand. Ladies, they called. How does it feel to get justice? Before I could answer, Detective Fleming pushed through. We found more evidence in Josephine's house. There are at least 3 other women. My phone buzzed. A text from Chelsea. Mom's lawyer called. She wants to make a deal too. Like mother, like son, Vera muttered. Sarah turned to me. Thank you for being stronger than I was, for stopping them. You survived, I told her. That makes you strong too. Later that night, I sat in my empty house, finally truly alone. My phone lit up with a news alert. Senator's wife arrested in connection with blackmail scheme. Another text from Chelsea. Amanda's singing like a bird. This goes deeper than we thought. I poured a glass of wine, thinking of all the women like Sarah, like me. The ones who'd been silenced, committed, destroyed. Good, I texted back. Let's hear everything she has to say. Because some games don't end with a single victory. Sometimes justice needs an encore. 6 months, Vera said, sliding a newspaper across her desk. 6 months since the trial, and the story still unfolding. The headline read, Townsend Conspiracy, 3 more victims come forward. Amanda's testimony opened the floodgates, I replied, scanning the article. How many does this make now? 12 women total, all wealthy, all diagnosed as unstable after threatening their husbands or discovering financial fraud. Vera pulled up files on her computer. The FBI's involved now. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Just got the restitution check. Still doesn't feel real. None of it does, I murmured. Speaking of unreal, Vera said, you need to see this. She handed me a letter, prison letterhead, visible at the top. My hand shook as I recognized Stephen's handwriting. Vanessa, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but there's something you need to know about the photo from the Hamptons party last summer, the one with Amanda and the senator's chief of staff. Please don't release it. It could destroy more lives than you know. Stephen. What photo? Vera asked. I pulled out my phone, found the image. Amanda, drunk and disheveled with a married political heavyweight in a very compromising position. Insurance, I said. I never planned to use it. Maybe you should, Vera suggested. The chief of staff is blocking legislation that would make it harder for spouses to commit their partners without due process. Before I could respond, Chelsea burst into the office. Mom's talking, she said breathlessly. Really talking. The FBI just called. We rushed to the federal building downtown. Detective Fleming met us in the interview room where we could watch through one-way glass. Josephine sat across from 2 FBI agents, her prison jumpsuit a stark contrast to her perfect posture. It started 15 years ago, she was saying. Rich women, vulnerable women. Stephen would charm them, marry them. Then, when they discovered the truth about the money, you had them committed, the agent finished. The facilities were paid well to keep them medicated, compliant. Their families were told they'd had breakdowns, needed long-term care. Meanwhile, their fortunes disappeared into offshore accounts. And the doctors? The staff? Josephine laughed bitterly. Money opens every door, even in psychiatric hospitals. Chelsea gripped my hand. I had no idea it went this far. The senator's wife, the agent pressed. How did she fit in? Amanda was our fixer. She had connections, knew which doctors would cooperate, which judges would sign commitments without asking questions. In return, she got a percentage of every fortune we stole. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number with a video attachment. I pressed play. It showed Amanda, recorded recently in custody, speaking to investigators. The chief of staff wasn't the only one. I have proof of other officials involved, judges, doctors, administrators. Holy shit, Vera whispered. The FBI agent stepped out to speak with us. Mrs. Townsend, one said, your case broke open something much bigger than we anticipated. We're looking at a nationwide conspiracy of forced commitments and stolen fortunes. What happens now? Chelsea asked. Now we follow every lead, but we need your help. The agent turned to me. That photo Stephen mentioned in his letter, we need it. I hesitated. People could lose their careers. People could lose their freedom. Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She walked in stronger now than 6 months ago, like I did, like others still are. I pulled out my phone, forwarded the photo. There's more, I said. Videos, recordings, documents. I kept everything. Later that night, I sat with Sarah, Chelsea, and Vera in my living room watching the news unfold. Breaking story. Major political figures implicated in psychiatric commitment scandal. FBI investigating corruption at highest levels. You did it, Sarah said softly. You brought down their whole network. We did it, I corrected. All of us. My phone lit up with a final text from Detective Fleming. Stephen wants to make another deal, says he'll name every person involved, every victim, every corrupt official, in exchange for a reduced sentence. What are you going to do? Chelsea asked. I thought about all the women still out there, still trapped, still silenced, about the corrupt doctors and judges who helped make it happen, about the system that allowed it all. Tell him, I typed back, to start talking. Because sometimes revenge isn't just about making your enemies pay. Sometimes it's about making sure they can never hurt anyone else again. And I was just getting started. The final count is 37 women, Detective Fleming said, spreading photos across my kitchen table. All freed, all restored to their lives, thanks to Stephen's testimony. I studied the faces, doctors, lawyers, business owners, women who'd lost everything to men like Stephen, to women like Josephine and Amanda. The legislation passed this morning, Vera added, holding up her tablet. The Safe Spouses Act. No more forced commitments without multiple independent evaluations and court oversight. My doorbell rang. Sarah stood there with Chelsea, both carrying champagne. We're celebrating, Sarah announced. The last facility on the FBI's list was raided today. Every corrupt doctor, every paid-off administrator, they're all going down. I popped the first bottle. To justice. And to the women who fought back, Chelsea added. My phone buzzed. A message from Royal. Turn on Channel 7 now. The news showed Josephine being led into court, her face twisted with rage as reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Townsend, what do you say to allegations that you masterminded the largest psychiatric commitment fraud scheme in history? She turned to the camera, eyes finding mine through the screen. I did it for my son. Everything I did was for family. Family? Chelsea scoffed. She did it for power, for money. Speaking of money, Vera said, pulling out documents, the restitution fund is set up. Every victim gets back what was stolen plus damages. The corrupt facilities are being sold to fund it. Detective Fleming's phone rang. His face turned serious as he listened. That was the prison, he said after hanging up. Stephen wants to see you, Vanessa. Says it's important. Don't go, Sarah said immediately. He's manipulating you again. But I knew I had to. One last time. The prison visiting room was cold. Stephen sat behind glass, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. You look well, he said. Success suits you. What do you want? To apologize? To explain? I don't know anymore. He pressed his hand against the glass. I loved you, you know, in my way. Your way involved trying to destroy me. Yes. He dropped his hand. But you destroyed us instead, completely, brilliantly. He almost smiled. You'd have made a better conspirator than any of us. Except I chose justice over power. And now you have both. He leaned forward. There's one more thing you should know. One last secret. I stood up. No more secrets, Stephen. No more games. Vanessa, goodbye. Outside, Chelsea waited in her car. You okay? She asked. Better than okay. I showed her my phone, emails from publishers bidding on my story. The truth needs to be told, all of it. Even the parts about our family, especially those parts. Back home, Sarah and Vera had dinner waiting. Detective Fleming arrived with news. Amanda took a plea deal, he said. 25 years. She's naming more conspirators by the hour. And the chief of staff? Vera asked. Resigned this morning under investigation for corruption, abuse of power, and conspiracy. My phone lit up with messages from other survivors, women I'd helped free now rebuilding their lives, photos of reunited families, reopened businesses, restored futures. I never thought I'd see this day, Sarah said softly. All those years locked away, I thought I was alone. Crazy. Now look at us. Look at them, I corrected, showing her my laptop. Forums, support groups, advocacy organizations, all born from our story. They can't silence us anymore. Chelsea raised her glass. To the women they couldn't break. To the truth they couldn't bury, Vera added. To justice, Detective Fleming said. No, I said quietly. To freedom. Later, alone on my deck, I opened my laptop and began to write. This is a story about power, about truth, about women who refuse to be erased. But mostly it's a story about freedom, not just from prison walls or forced medications, but from the cages built by those who claim to love us. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Stephen. There will always be men like me, I typed back, and there will always be women like us. Then I blocked his number, turned back to my laptop, and continued writing. Because some stories need to be told, some truths need to be heard, and some victories need to be shared, not for revenge, but for every woman still fighting to be free. The stars came out as I wrote, each one a light in the darkness, like the women we'd freed, like the truth we'd uncovered, like hope, burning bright and unstoppable. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning, and I was ready to tell the whole damn story.